Hello and welcome to our I think it's the fourth installment of our winter forecast. Today we have a big update, especially in the precipitation department. Temperatures and snowfall have not changed that much. We will go over it though. Obviously, the precipitation does impact that snowfall quite a bit. And then we'll get into that exciting overall forecast. Now, you guys have been asking like crazy for this one, and it's finally here. I had a good day to make it, and it all worked out. So here it is. Our below normal precipitation is stretching across the southern United States. And we expect less of the below normal precipitation than originally anticipated there in the southeast, especially. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Basically, in a La Nina, which we're in, there's El Nino, La Nada, which means none, so it's kind of in between, and then La Nina. El Nino, what we see is a southern jet pop through this southern region and bring a lot of precipitation in a track that goes approximately like that. In a La Nina, basically way out in the Pacific where you can't even see on the screen, so that's El Nino. I'll draw in red what the La Nina does, but the La Nina, it goes all the way north like this, and it just comes in with that northern jet instead of being this separate southern jet. So it basically gives you a good idea of why we expect below normal precipitation in the southeast and southwest and south central United States this year compared to a La Nina this year. I don't know why I said it that way, but where we see the above normal precipitation all around this northern storm track where we frequently see storms move through. In a year where we see an El Nino, you'll probably be much more likely to see me call for above average precipitation in this region and potentially even below average precipitation up north like that. I hope that makes sense. Let's add another layer here, and we can see more below normal precipitation here for the southwest here. We really don't expect the storm track to move through this area at all. Again, in El Nino, you would see frequent storms in this area, pretty much the opposite of what we're calling for here, with maybe, close to no storms moving through this region. A lot of their storms that they're going to see are going to be storms that are moving through like this, pretty far south still, but bringing precipitation to the southwest. That's where you're going to get most of your precipitation this year in the southwest. Now, let's take a look here at our next layer. And look, we're adding an above average precipitation. In our last few updates, we've had a far below average precipitation area over here. We are doing away with that now. I do expect, especially with how this fall has gone so far, the potential still for nor'easters to develop off the East Coast. One of our biggest nor'easter snowstorms in East Coast history was in 2010 to 2011. This one actually happened in December of 2010. You might remember it as the Boxing Day blizzard. And this storm was in a fairly strong La Nina, but it was a nor'easter, and it did bring a hefty punch with it. So this, La Nina years have some of the biggest nor'easters. They just don't have them happening all the time. I'd say that's the best description of it from how I see it, really. So having a storm develop off the southeast and really move its way up the coast is not too far-fetched, even in a La Nina year, in my opinion. So that's why we're not doing the far below average precipitation, because I think there will be coastal storms. They're just not going to be as frequent as an El Nino year, obviously. Now, we do have far above normal precipitation expected here in the northwest here, over the Cascades, the Rockies. This is again because instead of having the storms move onshore of the southwest, we see them move onshore of the northwest in La Ninas frequently. Now, last winter we didn't see quite as much of this until later on. And the winter before it was also a La Nina, and we didn't see quite as much as we even saw last year. So it could go either way, obviously. I do expect this to be the case, though, this winter, because I would say 2 times out of 3, this is how it takes place. And we've had 3 La Ninas, and one of the 3 already was a little bit more dry than you'd expect. So, simple math telling me that probably we're going to see above normal precipitation there in the northwest, although that's not the best way to be. But more likely than not, that is going to be the case. How about that? For the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes and interior northeast, we do expect quite a bit of precipitation as storms will move through pretty frequently like this. These could come in the form of these types of storms, or they could come in the form of clippers. that come down from Canada like this. Either way, they should exit the same way, regardless of how they move in. Some will probably move onshore a little bit further south and then still meet up with the jet stream there. So you can see how they start out in very, very different ways here, but they're probably going to meet up with that jet stream at times and move in like this. And, sometimes, well, what'll happen is you'll see a clipper go kind of rogue and go really far south like this. I've even had them go this far south before. I know in Virginia we've had some clipper snowstorms that turn into Miller B nor'easters, which are nor'easters that move off the middle of the East Coast. A Miller A would be a storm that moves off all the way up the southeast and goes all the way up the coast like this. So again, Miller B. Let me try to draw this. And then Miller A. It's like being back in elementary school. But Miller B, Miller A, both nor'easters, just different origins kind of. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at that temperature forecast. Not a lot here has changed. We, especially after how the fall has gone, expect below normal temperatures across the board here for the eastern 2/3 of the nation. I think there's going to be a lot of cold air available. Based on how this fall has gone, it's been below normal. And I think oftentimes that can lead towards a below normal winter. Now, there has been a few winters where you'll see a very cold fall, and that kind of uses up all the cold air that the Arctic has to give, and you get a little bit of a warmer winter. That is always a possibility, but I think what's going to happen here is going to be a lot like the 2010 winter, where in Virginia at least, I can recall there being a very cold fall, very early fall foliage, and then it translated straight into a colder winter as well. I could definitely see something like that taking place here. It just has that feeling. All right, everything is leading me to believe that there's good potential for a cold winter this winter. So we have our first layer of blue here. Our second layer here is going to be a little bit more confidence. Definitely below normal temperatures expected throughout all of these areas. And we even have a third layer here, and this is where the furthest below normal temperatures are expected. I expect frequent Arctic blasts in this region, deep, deep, deep Arctic air for a lot of these areas. Polar vortex might make a few appearances as well. That cannot be ruled out at this point. So definitely far below normal temperatures at times going to be expected for this region up here in the darkest blue. Now, for the above normal temperatures, here we can see the western United States. This is a lot like what we've seen this fall, you might notice, but this positive P&A just kind of hanging out here and forcing this cold air to move around this air mass and down through into the eastern half of the nation. This is what we've seen all fall long, and we could see that trend continue. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a front-loaded winter, honestly, which would mean that December could be a lot of, one of the coldest and snowiest months, actually. Usually it's January, February, and sometimes even March is more wintry than December. But I think this could be one of those winters where December is a very, very wintry month, which is kind of exciting, especially if you have hopes of a white Christmas. That could be a higher probability this winter. Now, as we take a look at this, we also see that there is a second layer of above average temperatures expected here in the southwest. It's going to be less rainy, less snowy, less precipitation, less cloudy, which means more sunny, higher temperatures. It's pretty easy to predict this, honestly, based on the fact that we have a La Nina. I certainly, this is one of the more prominent features that I'm the most confident in, I would say. Now, here is our snowfall chance forecast. This just means you will see above normal chance at seeing snowfall this winter or below normal chance. Because no matter what the temperatures and the precipitation looks like, it doesn't mean that it's going to actually pan out that way, because you need a storm system to move through at the right time with the cold air. So it's harder to predict snowfall anomalies, basically exactly how it's going to go, versus how the potential will lead it to possibly go. That's more of what we're trying to do here, because I think it's going to give you guys a more accurate representation of what to expect. So we expect below normal snowfall chance for the southwest, especially the portions of the south central and southeastern United States, due to a lot of that warmer and drier air that we're going to see across this region. Again, mostly due to the fact that we're in a La Nina. Now, above normal snowfall chance to the north, however, we see a lot of these areas up here expecting above normal snowfall chance. The lighter blue, but also especially there in the darker blue for the northwest, where we have frequent storms, and also the Ohio Valley in the northeast, where I think, again, we're going to have these clippers moving through, and also these storms that start out in the northwest and move through these regions as well. A couple of frequent storm tracks moving through these regions leads me to believe we're definitely going to be seeing a winter with above normal snowfall chance. Uh, that's really what I'm thinking at this point. Now for the exciting overall forecast, here we are taking a look at it. Cool and stormy in the northwest, warm and dry there for the southwest, obviously due to my forecast of precipitation and temperatures. Warmer there, especially in the southwest, further southwest there, in those darker orange regions. We have our typical snowfall for the Rockies and Cascades, which could be more than typical in my opinion. Cold and snowy there for the blue regions east of the Rockies. I think a lot of storms are going to move through this region as well. Polar vortex potentially making its way through that magenta region. Definitely cannot be ruled out at all. Worst of winter potentially for the Great Lakes. I think that there's going to be frequent storms moving through here. Deep Arctic air, potentially polar vortex at times as well for these regions. And big time snowstorms due to the lakes. But not only that, also the main low pressure systems are going to move really close to you guys as well. Could lead towards plentiful opportunities at snowfall. Arctic blasts down there for that purple region. Winter battle zone in the pink, which means snow, sleet, rain, freezing rain. All of it's going to be possible in this pink region. Very dry across the south from Texas all the way through Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. It could be very dry at times. Although I will say it's only going to be very dry compared to what's normal. That does not mean you will be seeing no precipitation. I think there could be definitely some storms that move through this region. And honestly, I wouldn't even say very dry. Looking back, I would say probably pretty dry. I think would be a better way to put it. Tons of snow here in this blue region for the Appalachian Mountains for the most part, all the way up through New England, the mountainous regions of New England. Definitely an area where we could get some storms moving through, kind of like this. We get these at times. They're kind of like nor'easters. They're pretty close to nor'easters, except they bring snowfall primarily to these areas, obviously to the northwest of that track, and rain along the coast. We see these pretty frequently, and I expect that to be a pretty common storm track this winter, so I think tons of snow for this area is a good call. Huge snowstorms potentially in that white region. Again, kind of reminds me of the winters that had the Boxing Day blizzard, some bigger nor'easters that could roll through. There will be the potential for some big hitters along the East Coast for sure. Definitely cannot be ruled out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.